Hi, so a warm welcome to Lesley's here today. We have the author spotlight, and I have the complete pleasure and honour to interview Lesley Pyne, author of Finding Joy Beyond Childlessness. And the author spotlight is our opportunity to find out what it's like to be an author, what's the journey like, find out more about their book as well and them as a person, but hopefully to share inspiration, highs and lows of what it's like to be an author and how it changes your life. So no pressure there at all, Lesley.
Not at all, no, not a bit, no.
So the idea is I'm going to ask Lesley a few questions, get her to share her story, and then please, if you're watching this on record, please put comments below, ask questions of Lesley. If there's anything you'd like to know more about the experience that she's had, please engage with her. If you find her book of interest, obviously share it, talk about it, that would be great. And Lesley, who's on the call with us today, at the end of the interview as well, if you've got any questions, we'll be coming back to ask you as well if you'd like to engage with that. So I'm anticipating the interview will be about 20 minutes or so, and the total recording might be around 40 minutes. But it will be as long as it needs to be, and it will be as short as it needs to be. If we're all done and dusted, we'll stop, and if we're getting engrossed, we'll carry on. But we won't be any longer than about 45 minutes. I do have another interview with Lesley later. So on that note then, tell us a little bit about your book writing journey, Lesley.
Well, I've had my my website supporting childless women for about 5 years, and I started collecting stories because many women who are childless, it's a grief process that you go through, and you think, I'll never be happy. So I started collecting stories of women who'd, if you like, made it through to the other side and are living a joyful life. And I always thought I'd put them into some sort of book or something. And then about 18 months ago, I was lying on a yoga mat and I had this vision that I was at my book party holding my book in my hand. And that was it. That was like, that sort of turned a switch, and I felt I've got to do it. So I found Karen. We sat around and we made a whole sheet with Post-it notes and coloured pens, and off I started. And let's leave it at that for now. I mean, 18 months on, I'm just going to hold up the front cover of my book because I think the front cover is absolutely stunning. And it comes out as we record this in almost 5 weeks. So, yeah, that's in short. That's it. There's a lot more to it than that.
Why did you write the book?
Well, 2 reasons. When I started, I thought I want to hold it. People like me don't write books. I want to hold it. And the second thing was I want to make a difference. Because it's that when you don't have children, there's a legacy issue as well. So let's leave something behind. A guy I know Jeremy, who started me on my NLP training, he doesn't have children. And he said when he went to take his book into the British Library, he said, I can die happy now because I've left something behind. So there was a bit of that. And a couple of friends of mine kept saying, that's not the reason. That's not the reason. And 18 months, well, almost 18 months on, the reason, there was something underneath saying, you need to go on that journey, you need to find yourself. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but I am a completely different person now to who I was 18 months ago. So, yeah, my soul was calling me to do the work. Yeah.
So I know it's not on the question, but I'm going to ask you because it just calls me now, is because I can totally relate to how the journey of an author for me. That's why I'm so inspired to support Karen to help more people. But when you're a completely different person and it's changed, is there anything else about that?
Well, I feel like I'm me now, actually, and the blue nails is one of the things. I'm leopard skin boots and bracelets. That's what I keep saying. But I feel like I've become the authentic me. I've peeled away a lot of layers. I mean, I've also done a lot of grieving. My story. I mean, I'm childless. I've also lost both my parents, and all my grief I bottled up for a lot of years. And the last 18 months, I've released a lot of that grief on the yoga mat, a lot of it. And so I am that. It's great fun. I love it, actually. I feel very comfortable in my own skin. And several people have said to me, I look 10 years younger than I did last time they saw me. So,
So you've done a lot of grieving and your authentic self, and you look 10 years younger. And what is it about the journey as an author that's allowed that to happen?
Well, it was I mean, I'm writing about big subjects. I'm writing about grief, letting go, connecting with your body, writing. So it encouraged me to dig deep into those subjects. That was bottom line, actually. That was it. That I feel like, I mean, I'm not, I can't be one of those people who writes a book and hasn't done everything that's in it. I've done all of the things that I'm suggesting other people to do. So it was that digging back really deeply into all those different subjects that's brought me out the other side.
Fabulous. So what's the most important thing that you've learned?
Well, I think if in writing, working with Karen was really helpful, because I know I need accountability. So it's about knowing myself and knowing what I needed. Some of the things like chunking it down into writing a chapter at a time was really helpful, because, we did the Post-it notes and then I put it onto a Word document and I think, that's really big. I can't do all of that. But writing a chapter at a time was really helpful. And having a spreadsheet of the word count really helped me, because each day that I was writing, I had a little total at the bottom, and I could see it growing and see how much I'd done. So that is like tricking yourself into seeing how much progress you've made. And I think as a writer, it was about setting boundaries. So there are some friends that I haven't seen quite so much. I know I'm not cooking quite as much as I normally do, but I've got another 5 weeks before the launch. This is my focus. This is what I'm doing, knowing that these are my boundaries and I've got to stick to it. No, I don't have to stick to it, but I want to stick to it. Doing things that really focus and support me in my writing. That's been the most important thing, I think, really.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And I think just to share with other people about the journey as an author is how do you measure progress? And sometimes in the early days, I don't know if you can relate to it, when we talk about the dreaming and thinking and the sort of researching phase, often you don't have anything to show for it, because you're just percolating the ideas in your mind, trying to formulate the book. And until it starts to actually take some kind of form on a Word document, often there isn't a way of measuring the progress. So it's great. And interesting as well about the setting boundaries, because that's really a big thing, and particularly when we take people on retreats, they've often had to go through quite a process to give themselves permission to go away for 5 days, and then when they get there, it's like almost they've got no boundaries, so that it's like they're free to be themselves. And I've seen that a lot with the authors that and particularly from my own journey, I can resonate with that. When you decide to take on such a big project, you have to start saying no to things and people.
Exactly.
Therefore it makes you reevaluate your life. It evaluates what's important and how are you going to communicate in a kind, loving way. But actually, I can't see you today. I'm going to be doing this.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm finding hard. We're going to write a book, Karen and I, about the author's journey, and it's kind of how do we say that how can a book be so powerful? And it's because all of this part of the journey is forcing you to decide what's important to you and take your own advice by the sounds of it as well. So it's been lovely.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I know there have been times when my husband has said, let's see these people at the weekend. And I was like, no, actually, what's more important to me on Friday night is to go to a yoga class, because that's the, writing and yoga. Me, some friends, but picking those friends who, will nurture you and support you, and not those people that drain your energy. That's been really important, yeah.
Fabulous. So what do you wish you'd known before you started?
I don't know if I'd known how hard it was, I might not have started, but I don't know. I think, no, it's all worked out perfectly. And we're going to talk about the low point in a minute, but maybe marketing's hard, isn't it? I think for me, that's the hardest bit now, that it's not, writing isn't the end of it, is it? You write it, and then and it's these next few weeks are going to take a real commitment to just carry on that next step. So yeah, maybe if that bit perhaps, but other than that, the writing's all worked out really well.
Yeah. So what is it about the marketing you wish you'd known before you began?
Well, it's just I think I always knew actually I would have to do it, but I just put it to one side and hoped it'd go away, because it's against my nature, this pushing, this doing a lot of the sort of social media stuff. But just have to keep going. That's the thing. I wish I'd known I guess I wish I'd known how just committed you have to be to the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it's something to reassure. We talk about the author's journey at the beginning. We dream about it, we think about it, then we start talking about it. And we often tell people we're going to write a book. So what I want to say is that you've been marketing it from the very beginning. And it's a bit like sometimes we just don't have the evidence. So the fact that we've been telling friends, we've been talking about it, and it is simply marketing, just doing more of that. And finding more efficient and more effective ways and collaborations, and this is one of them, is obviously getting people to interview. I believe you were on the radio this morning as well.
No, yesterday I was interviewed for the Science Museum. Actually, they're doing a 40 years of IVF exhibition. But last week I was on radio for a program called Soul Music about trick. So yes, I mean that happened by accident actually. But yes, we'll see what comes out.
Well, I think that's why I'm aware you are marketing your book, and I am. And you are finding the way that's working for you. Whether maybe it's not writing necessarily yet on social media, but it's you're talking and you're being on stage. Because the author's journey, I believe, really does not finish, but it's about speaking about your book. Because you talk about the idea of writing, and then you've got to speak about the book once it's completed, and so speaking becomes the next part of the process. And with what you've written, you can have more clarity to speak about it with confidence. And so it just depends where you are. Sometimes people have to finish to start having that speaking with confidence. And some people like me will talk about it because they'll dream it's going to be okay and then get wobbly in the middle and then eventually pick it up at the end.
Yes.
It is an
we only got the title quite close to the end. And I think it's only, and I've been, I've got a new look website, the new headshots. That this is me now, and I couldn't have started talking about. I mean, I've been talking about writing a book, but it's only recently that you can have that fulfilling life without children. That is my message, and here I'm having it.
Fabulous. And I also know that you're writing for the magazine Childless Not by Choice.
That was out yesterday. Marketing. I know I am. Yes, I know.
I can't help it. I put my Strength and Solutions Detective hat on there. I'm like, yeah, you're doing it. I know you.
I know. Sorry. Yes.
Fantastic stuff. So I can't wait to hear more about all that. I can't wait for to read it as well. So, what was your lowest point as a journey on your journey as an author?
Well, it was actually about near enough a year ago. I went through that. I can't do this. This is crap. What I'm writing is crap, all that sort of, because I mean, it's a very solitary thing, isn't it? You've no idea whether what you're writing makes any sense. And Karen referred me to you, and we had a couple of sessions, didn't we? And it's, that clean language is one of those sort of weird things but magic happened. And at the same time, I started my one-to-one yoga lessons, and that was the two things together. It's just, I don't know, something happened. It flicked a switch. And also you suggested that I had some cheerleaders. That also really helped. So people who only gave me positive feedback, because that's what I needed to hear at the time. And I found a group of people, some were friends, some I didn't know. And I sent a chapter out, and the feedback made me cry, actually, that yes, I am doing this. So those sort of three things really made the difference.
Making me cry now. Because one of the things about the writing of a book is that, and I think that's why we become more ourselves, more authentic, is because we actually get heard and we suddenly realise that actually what we've got to say has got value. And whilst there will always be, the editing process is much further along in the journey in terms of there are better ways to frame things, there are better ways to space your paragraphs out, there's all that kind of stuff, and you're finding your voice. But it is so important are those early days, in the early part of just sort of letting go of your voice and asking people to look at it. We can so often go ask for feedback, but people would naturally go into what could be better from their perspective, not necessarily for the reader.
Yes.
And so I know when I felt very honoured to spend that time with you and listen and read your chapters, because I think we underestimate, we don't understand that we all have value. All of our stories really, really matter.
Because it's an interesting thing, isn't it? You put it on your computer, and for me, it's first of all writing it and then sending a chapter out at a time to cheerleaders, and then I picked some of the same people and a slightly different group of people to look at the whole transcript, and that's another step in sending it out. Each required a new bracelet, I have to say. But well, you know, mark these occasions, treat yourself. And then I sent it out to my peers for review, because we've got a short timescale. They haven't seen the final version, and again, that was just amazing, because within there's a really good childless community, and we are very supportive of each other. And you know, one feedback said, "You are going to change lives with this book." And another lady, Jodie Day, who runs Gateway Women, that's the biggest community. She said, "Would you like me to write the foreword?" Well, yeah, I hadn't thought necessarily I'd have a foreword, but yes, please. If so, all these little steps, you know, it's like, it's done a little bit more each time, isn't it? Just spreading the net, and then it goes out into the world very soon.
Doesn't it?
Because it's a scary thing, isn't it? Thinking that anyone in the world could read your words. That's quite at times it's quite scary, actually. Yeah.
And I think for me, when I've worked with myself, you have to own your opinion, don't you, as well? You have to be. I know for me, I've become very good at listening to people and being very adaptable and very communion-like, and I could be whatever the other person needed me to be. And when you write a book, you have to mean what you say in that moment and own it. And the other thing for me was being okay that it might change. That you might get more wisdom and it might change, but this can have. Learning about second editions was a bit of a relief for me, to realise I could update it. It didn't matter. But why I want to go, because I know that you were saying that the lowest point was, you know, really tough. That was a year ago, and I know that you were working with Karen, and Karen, yes, referred you to me. But is there anything else that happened in between that really low point and getting the cheerleaders?
Well, it was starting yoga. I meant my at the same similar sort of time. I think that yoga's been a big part of my healing journey, and the yoga I do is yin, where you hold your seat for 5 minutes, and so I don't know. I found a lovely yoga teacher, and just going on to, I think I had my first lesson around the same time, and it was just like feeling at home, that I'll be okay. I think that was I'll be okay. I'm okay, and I'll be okay, and I can, whatever work I need to do, I can do it here. Yeah.
Fabulous. So what's been your biggest success to date?
Well, I think it's a bit of a cliche, but finding myself, the work that I've done, that soul calling me to do that work, coming out the other side a different person. So yeah, the book's done its work on me.
So when the work's done the book on you, and you're finding yourself and it's a different person, what kind of person were you before you started the journey of writing the book?
I was fairly sad, actually, because in the terms of I hadn't grieved very much, so I was very numb, actually. I wasn't feeling very much. Now friends call me a blubber now, because I do cry a bit more, but I'm just lighter, brighter, happier, actually, a lot more joy in my life, and living more in every moment. I was more looking to the future or the past, but now I'm looking more I'm more, absolutely more in the moment.
Fab. Talking about being more in the moment, I remembered I was supposed to stop sharing this so we could actually see you on the screen. So I'll bring you into the moment now, as we're mentioning that. I was so engrossed listening to you, I completely forgot about that part. So when you were really sad before, and now you're lighter and more in the moment, is there anything else about your journey as an author?
It's difficult, clean language questions, don't you? I don't know, actually. I've just loved, once it's all worked out perfectly. I mean, that low point, if I hadn't had the low point, I wouldn't have had the transformation that I've had. So it's all worked perfectly, actually. And I've enjoyed 90%, 95% of it. And I've enjoyed it all, near enough all of it, actually.
Yeah. So if you hadn't had the low point, you wouldn't have had that growth for you.
Exactly.
So books coming out 21st of June?
18th of June, actually.
18th of June.
I'm going to hold it up again, because that's...
Yeah. And when we launch the recording later, I will put a link to your website and your pages, so people can find out more about you. I would like to wish you all the best with that
Thank
journey.
you.
And obviously we're around, Karen and I, still to help you and support you in anything you want with the marketing. So we can't wait to see more. The next lot of writing will be about the book, hopefully. So Lesley, do you have any questions? I'm just going to unmute you there.
I do. I think it's a really great book to write. And well done for getting to this point. I just wondered how you started to structure the book.
When I looked at the stories, there were some things that some of the storytellers had done. So there was some similarities I could. That was the that they were the chapters. So grieving, letting go, things like that. So I structured it like that, and I've used the metaphor of a butterfly, which it was always going to be in 3 acts. It's a bit like the hero's journey, actually. But there's sort of some things that you need to do before you go into that transformation bit in the middle, and then there's some coming out the other side. Who are you now? So I've structured it in 2, if you like, in 2 ways. 1 around the different what people did, and 2 in the 3 sections.
Okay.
So I've got 19 other stories apart from mine. Yeah.
Wow, well done, and congrats on the marketing too. It sounds like a big scary thing, but I think you're doing all the things that almost by accident. So, and it's great these opportunities are coming up for interviews and what have you. So well done.
Thank you.
Fabulous. So I want to leave with a big thumbs up for you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Author's Spotlight.